this morning, my car ran out of gas, and I had to go to the gas station to fill it up. Like so many people the past few weeks, I watched the numbers rise and rise until somehow they inched towards $100. I had the money to pay, but I definitely didn't like what I was seeing. Then I headed inside the supermarket to get a few things before I had going to work, and again, I couldn't help but notice the higher prices. So many of those things that I was used to paying much less for became expensive. And I know I'm not alone in noticing these differences. And in a surprisingly straightforward way, the news of the world is, as it sometimes does, starting to hit close to home. As the conflict with Iran continues to affect global markets and these challenges spread throughout our country and the world, a lot of people are feeling anxious about rising gas prices, but also food prices and just the general cost of living. Even people who are financially stable are starting to feel that weight of this uncertainty. Now, most of us naturally think about these challenges, economic and others, in the short term. Maybe this time we're reflecting on how we'll pay the bills or afford groceries, or maybe make some changes to our lifestyle to save a bit of money. And of course, these are real and important concerns. Judaism never dismisses the practical realities of how we survive. But this week's Torah portion, Behar Behukotai, asks us to step back and start asking some bigger questions about what kind of society we're building when economic anxiety becomes permanent, and we never want it to come to that. Parshat Behar contains some of the Torah's most powerful economic teachings. The Torah recognizes, of course, that people sometimes struggle financially. People are going to fall behind, they'll lose some sense of stability, but the Torah is also concerned about what happens when this temporary challenge, hardship, becomes permanent hopelessness. We read, if your brother or sister becomes impoverished, then you shall strengthen them. Now we can see that the Torah doesn't say judge these people. It doesn't say to embarrass them. It says strengthen them. The medieval commentator Rashi explains that this means helping a person before they completely fall apart economically. He says it's like supporting a donkey while it's still standing, rather than waiting until it falls down because of everything it's carrying. The Torah understands something profound about human dignity. It's much easier to preserve and save stability than to rebuild someone after that sadness, that despair has taken hold. And the portion goes even further. Every 7 years, debts are released in the Shemitah year. Every 50 years, land returns to the original families in the Jubilee year. Now, these laws may sound unrealistic or ancient, but beneath them is an unbelievable spiritual idea. No one should be trapped forever by economic challenges. And of course, this is an idea that feels deeply relevant today. While the rising prices is connected, in this case, with war and political instability, I think the deeper issue is that many people have already felt challenged long before the crisis began. Across so much of our society, people are tired, they're working harder, they're paying more, and they're still feeling that sense of insecurity. I've been reading about how young adults wonder if they can afford homes, and how families are just quietly struggling with growing debt. Many seniors, many older people worry about their fixed incomes and that they're not stretching far enough, and they may have to keep working longer than they wanted to. And we know that in many, if not most cases, economic challenges, they're not an individual's fault. They are more a problem of what is happening in society. The contemporary writer Rutger Bregman, in his book Utopia for Realists, wrote about this truth clearly. He said, poverty is not a lack of character, it's a lack of cash. Should be obvious. And Jewish tradition would add, economic suffering is not just a financial issue, it's a spiritual issue. When people live constantly in fear, their sense of dignity begins to erode. Holding on to hope becomes more challenging. The Talmud even goes so far as to say poverty is considered like death. While the rabbis can sometimes use a bit of hyperbole to make their point, in this case, I think they're pointing out a very clear truth. The rabbis understood that insecurity, economic and otherwise, this affects a person emotionally, spiritually, and in the way they relate to other people. It isolates and it creates a sense of embarrassment and shame, and it makes being part of a community even more difficult. But Judaism tells us that our response can't simply be being scared or trying to protect ourselves. In Behukotai, immediately following all these economic laws, the Torah warns us that what happens when societies lose their moral foundation is even more challenging. When people stop caring for each other and when they start living only for themselves, what happens is society breaks down, people are scared, and they don't trust each other. But thankfully, the Torah offers another possibility. A holy society isn't one where nobody has struggles. There's no society that's ever existed. A holy society is where one where people refuse to let people struggle alone. So perhaps in the world we live in this moment, this is the challenge. We don't only need to ask how we can survive rising costs ourselves, but we need to ask how we can strengthen each other while we do. We need to preserve that sense of compassion and maybe generosity in these times. We need to build communities of compassion instead of those that are ruled by a sense of fear. Ultimately, the Torah is reminding us that economies aren't really about money. They're about a sense of holding on to values and dignity and responsibility. And above all, they're about the kind of human beings we choose to become when times are difficult.